Welcome to 5-Minute Math. This is Carrie Rhinehart. Today I'm going to look at midpoint and distance. And if you're following along in the book, we're looking at Algebra 1, Unit 3, and this is Lesson 4. So midpoint and distance apply to lines. Okay, we're looking at lines today. So if we had a visual, we have our XY axis, and let's say we have this line right here. Okay, so the midpoint and distance apply to segments of a line, okay, because if it's an actual line, it's going to go on forever and ever, and you can't find the length of that, and you can't find the midpoint because it never ends. So you actually have to have a segment here, so a portion of a line, and you will be given the endpoints to find the distance or the length of that segment and the midpoint of that segment. So let's say, let me get rid of the arrows. Let's say that we're just looking at this segment right here. The midpoint simply just is the point that splits this in half. So visually, I would say that's probably right about here. As you can see, this part of the segment looks like it's equal to that portion of the segment. So this would be our midpoint, and we do have a formula. And distance formula just gives you the length. How long is this total line segment? So for midpoint, your midpoint is another point. So we should get an ordered pair for that. The formula is you add your x's from the two ordered pairs for the endpoints, and you divide by 2, and you do the same with the y's. And this will get you another ordered pair. For distance, you're getting a length. Okay, so you're just going to get one value. It's not another ordered pair. And the formula for distance is the square root. You take the second x value, subtract the first one, and square it. You do the same with the y's. You add them together, and then you take the square root. So let's do an example. I'm going to say that this ordered pair is about, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me say that's -6, -2. And this other one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that looks like it's about 5, 3. So we have the ordered pairs -6, -2, and 5, 3. And we want to find the midpoint and the distance of this segment, or the length is actually what they'll ask you for, but you're using the distance formula. So I'm going to say this is x sub 1, and this is y sub 1, just because it's the first ordered pair that I wrote down. Okay, but that's the x and that's the y from the first ordered pair I wrote down, and then this is the x and the y from the second ordered pair I wrote down. So I'm going to find our midpoint first. Okay. So for midpoint, we have to add our x's and divide by 2. So our x's are -6 plus 5 divided by 2, comma, now I need to add my y's and divide by 2. So that's -2 plus 3 over 2. And now we simplify. So -6 plus 5 is -1. And -2 plus 3 is +1. So we get -1/2, comma 1/2. You could also write it as a decimal if you'd like. Okay. But then you're done. You've got your midpoint. Now we also need to find the length of the segment. So for length, we're going to do the distance formula. I'm going to erase the midpoint formula. Again, we found the midpoint here is -1/2, comma 1/2. And to find the length, we're going to do the distance formula. So we've got the square root. Okay. X sub 2 in this case is 5, minus x sub 1 is -6, close parentheses, squared, plus, now I need to do y sub 2, which is 3. And again, I'm getting this from the distance formula right here. Minus y sub 1 is -2, close parentheses, squared. So now I can simplify. You could type this directly into your calculator and it will simplify for you. I'm going to do it by hand. 5 minus -6 is the same as 5 plus 6. So I end up with 11 squared plus, and then I've got 3 minus -2, which is, I can change to plus. Well, 3 plus 2 is 5 squared. Equals, so 11 squared is 121, plus 5 squared is 25. Sorry, I'm trying to make this a little bit smaller to fit it all in here. So we're going to add 121 and 25. We're going to get the square root of 146, which is not a perfect square. Okay, but you can leave it like that. You can reduce it. Just depends on what your directions say. Okay, or we can get an approximate decimal, which I'm going to round 2 decimal places, and that's 12.08. So our length here is 12.08, and then we did a midpoint first, and that was -1/2, comma 1/2. All right, I hope you guys have a great day.